Hey, this is Isaiah from YourHead software. Today we're talking about the Stacks plugin and some of the cool features we've added to version 5. In this video, we're going to talk about the page stats window. It's an all-new feature just this year, and let's just jump right in and check out how it works. So I'm going to open up RapidWeaver and switch to my big view. Now, for years, I've had questions about how do I find out how many stacks are on a page, or how many images, or what types of stacks are on this page, and where are they? So, answering all these questions is important, especially as your pages get larger. But as your pages get larger, these questions get really difficult to answer. Counting everything by hand takes a long time and it's prone to error. And finding one place where you used a specific stack can be pretty tough. So we built the page stats window to answer all of these questions, and let's just open it up. It lives right here in the stacks menu. Page stats, it's a option single quote is the keyboard shortcut, and I think that's option accent, acute accent on European keyboards, accent aigu en français. So let's just open that up, and you can see immediately it answers some of those questions right here on the top. How many stacks there are, how many images. We're only using one partial. But even better than that, it breaks down all of our usage down below. So we can see, which types of stacks we're using, and the stuff that we're using most often bubbles right to the top. So we can see, like, we're using 7 block quotes. One of the cool things about it is it's a floating window, so that means we can keep working on our layout. And as we do it, the window dynamically updates. So let's duplicate this whole tab stack here that has a bunch of stacks inside of it. I'm just going to option drag it right here into the same place to create another one. And keep your eye on the page stats window and how it reshuffles. So you'll notice we duplicated a whole lot of things, and some of the items now became like block quotes, became the dominant stack that you're using on this page. So that had to bubble to the top. And it does it, in my opinion, in a pretty cool way. It animates all of these lines changing all at once. So I'll delete this guy so you can see it one more time. Anyway, beyond having really cool animations and some nice looking gauges to look at, it is actually useful as you're building the page to keep an eye out for how complex it's becoming. If you have tons of a really complex stack that has a lot of JavaScript interaction, or has gradients or other things that are kind of slow on the web, then maybe you should trim those down and not use them so much. So it can be a good way to keep an eye on how complex your page is getting. So that answered a lot of the questions, like how many, what kind, and some breakdowns like partials and images too. But it didn't answer where. And so to answer that last question, we just click on an item on the page. So if I click on block quote over here, for instance, it automatically selects all of the block quotes on the page. And so we can just scroll through and see where those items are. Or if we want to, say, we want to get rid of all the block quotes on the page. Now we can just come over and hit the delete key and they're all gone. Well, I'm going to Command Z to bring them back. Okay, so that's great, and it even works in more complex scenarios, like I can click on block quotes and click on paragraph stacks, and now all of those things are selected. So if I wanted to, I could really delete everything and start from scratch again. But there is one part of this that I want to mention because it helps us answer a little bit more of a challenging question. So I'll show you the problem. For instance, if I select on icon bar, there's only one of these on the page. And this is a pretty big page. So if I select that, well, I know it's selected somewhere on this page, but I don't know where it is. And it's not easy to find. So what we'd like to do is have Stack scroll that right into view. So just go find that on the page for us. And so we added this scroll selected stacks into view option. And it should be turned on by default unless you've disabled it. Because I think it's useful most of the time, but there are times when you might want to disable it too. Anyway, let's try that again over here. Let's go select our, let's select block quotes just to get the selection different. And now let's try clicking on icon bar. So now it scrolls it into view and we can see it's bright blue. We should have been able to find it, but it was right here at the very bottom and we didn't quite scroll that far down. So that's pretty useful, but I should mention that scrolling things into view can be a bit disorienting when you're scrolling some types of things. So for instance, if I'm using the keyboard to navigate around, the arrow keys move the selection up or down. Boy, it's really handy to scroll through these tab stacks. But this larger stack that contains all of these things, well, it's a giant stack. It's both above and below this scroll view. So we don't scroll that one into view by default because it might, scroll things when you weren't expecting them to. You can play with the preference if you want to try it both ways. There are times when I think it might be useful. It really depends a lot on what type of stacks you're using on the page and whether or not you use the keyboard a lot to navigate. So for that reason, we've made this a preference that you can enable or disable depending on how you use stacks and what type of thing you're building. So that's a quick rundown of some of the things that you can do with the page stats window. I'd encourage you to keep playing with it. There's some other things that you can do there. Especially go play with that scroll stacks into view preference and see if you like the defaults that we picked for you. If you don't like them, if you happen to like something else, definitely send me some feedback because I want to hear how you're using stacks. It might be different than how I use it or how I envision other people use it. And that feedback really helps guide how I add future features or make things easier and more straightforward. This year we've added a Discord server for feedback and, well, just for chatting with other users. If you're not familiar with Discord, it's a super popular new chat platform. It's free, And the link to our server is at the bottom of our webpage. There's some great client software for the Mac and for iPhone, so you can chat wherever or on whatever platform you like. And yeah, sign in, tell us what you think in the chat, or there's also a forum inside of Discord that lets you post things more long term than chat. So it's got both forum and chat. So give us some feedback. Let us know how you're using the page stats window, and especially that scrolling preference. I want to hear what you're doing with those things. And thanks for watching.